The U.S. military says it carried out strikes on 3 boats accused of trafficking drugs in the Eastern Pacific and Caribbean.
And finally, we head to Mexico, where the Pacific Ocean has become a battleground of cocaine, crime, and cartels. Mexico's Navy has been involved in high-speed chases, daring raids, and massive drug hauls. Yet
chaos, sudden, unexpected, and without warning. The El Paso International Airport, one of the busiest in the region, ground to a halt. Flights canceled, airspace shut down for 10 days, all because of drones. But not just any drones. These were drones from the Mexican drug cartels, creeping over the border, piercing American airspace with a calm precision that even the US government didn't see coming. And just when you thought it was over, that was only the beginning. El Paso, Texas, familiar to many as the lifeblood of the borderlands, suddenly found itself at the center of an international storm. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, had shut down its airspace for 10 days. Why? Well, they said it was because of drones from Mexican cartels. And what do the cartels have to do with airspace, you might ask? A lot, apparently. Now, I want you to stop for a second. Imagine that moment. The tense silence in the air when a whole airport is locked down, when the planes you were supposed to board are grounded without explanation. What's happening? Why this sudden shutdown? We learned as the situation unfolded that these drones weren't just flying. They were hovering, mapping, surveying. And here's the kicker. The Pentagon knew about it. In fact, they had a plan, a secret weapon. Directed energy laser weapons tested in American skies against these drones. Yes, you heard right. Lasers silently burning through the air, cutting down these drones mid-flight. A perfect weapon with no bullets, no noise, and absolutely no warning. But what you probably didn't hear is that this wasn't just a tech test. This was a signal, a message. The Pentagon was testing its laser weapon on American soil because of Mexican cartels. And Mexico? They had no idea. They woke up to this. The reality? A whole new chapter in the war on drugs, one you won't find in the mainstream news. The cartels were not just smuggling drugs over the border anymore. No, they had moved on to weaponized drones, and they were learning from the best. Cartel fighters, flying halfway around the world, heading to Ukraine to learn about drone warfare. Now, they're bringing those deadly skills right back home. But the cartels didn't just stop there. They did what any criminal empire would do, use every tool they could find to maintain control. And America? They were left with no choice but to escalate. But it doesn't stop with the Pentagon testing lasers. There's more, a whole lot more. On February 15th, just days after the airspace closure, the US sent a powerful message to the cartels in the form of Navy SEALs. Not just any SEALs, 19 of the most elite operators from SEAL Team 2. These men were landing in Mexico, not for a friendly training mission, but with one clear purpose: to set the stage for something bigger. And guess what? The Mexican Senate wasn't even fully aware of it. A Hercules aircraft, already landing in Mexico back in January, was carrying special operations personnel. What was their true mission? Was it just training? Or was there something else under the surface? The reality here is chilling, because what happened next was even more shocking than the surprise arrival of SEALs. This wasn't about simple border security or drone disruption. No, this was the beginning of what we are now calling Operation Southern Spear. But what does that mean? It means war. War that's already been fought in silence, behind closed doors. In fact, since August 2025, over 121 people have already been killed in US strikes on cartel vessels. These weren't accidents. These were targeted killings. And yet, most Americans haven't even heard of it. Why? Because this war is being fought in the shadows. Let that sink in. This isn't the start of something new. This is months of secret strikes, of drone tests, and military operations that have been kept under wraps. And as if that wasn't enough, here's the twist. Trump, yes, Trump made a bold declaration. On Fox News, he made it crystal clear, we're about to start hitting land targets inside cartel-controlled territory. That's right, not just drones, not just airspace, but land strikes inside Mexico. And these strikes won't be small. They will be deliberate, powerful, and aimed at dismantling the heart of the cartel operations in the region. This is not a threat. No, this is an operational announcement. And let me tell you, When the U.S. military sets its sights on something, it doesn't back down. These cartels may think they can get away with this, but trust me, America is on the move. It's a fight that will reshape everything. But what happens next? What does the future hold for U.S.-Mexico relations, for the cartels, and for the millions of lives affected by this ongoing conflict? But I want you to think about this. Is this what the future of the war on drugs looks like? Now let's pause for a moment. The laser weapon over El Paso? The Navy SEALs landing in Mexico? Those were just the opening moves. But what happens when the target shifts from drones to the very heart of cartel territory? And what does this mean for Mexico, for America, and for the rest of the world? As Trump has publicly said, the game is changing. The U.S. has made it clear. This war on drugs is no longer just about seizing drugs or busting smuggling operations. It's about dismantling the entire cartel infrastructure, piece by piece. But what happens when you start targeting the cartel's roots? Their land? Their territory? That's what's next. Operation Southern Spear is already in full motion, but it's about to intensify. And here's where things get truly shocking. You see, these cartels are not just a nuisance or a minor threat. They are organized. They have resources. They have power. The Mexican government has struggled for decades to maintain control over its own territory. But now a new player is on the scene. And the question becomes, is Mexico in control of its own land anymore? Mexico's Senate approved the presence of 19 Navy SEALs to train with their military. But what they didn't know was that this was just the tip of the iceberg. While the SEALs arrive for a training mission, what's really happening is the preparation for direct action operations on the ground. The truth? America is already moving inside Mexico, even if it's not widely known. The aircraft that landed in Mexico earlier this year, carrying more than just training officers, was part of the larger operation. And Mexico? Well, they might not have had much of a choice, because when Trump makes a move, the threat of tariffs and economic pressure looms large. And here's where the cartels aren't just on the defensive. They're escalating. These are the same cartels who have been smuggling drugs, using drones, infiltrating the U.S. with ease for years. But now they're learning. And they're not learning from some distant battlefield. They're learning from the best. Cartel operatives have been sent to Ukraine to study military drone warfare. Yeah, you heard me right. They're picking up battlefield experience in Ukraine, bringing that knowledge back home. These drones aren't just used for surveillance anymore. They're weaponized, and that's why the U.S. military is stepping up. The Pentagon's laser weapon was a response, a test of the future, a message. No, you cannot fly over our airspace without consequences. And what happens when the cartels get even more desperate? They get creative. They send fighters to other parts of the world to learn new tactics. And trust me, this isn't just about drug smuggling anymore. This is a military confrontation, a battle for control, a fight that's been simmering for years, but has now reached a boiling point. And now, the U.S. is officially about to hit the heart of cartel territory. Trump's words were clear. We are going to start hitting land targets. And when the U.S. says it's coming after you, you'd better believe it. The cartels are on notice. The U.S. has already targeted cartel vessels off Mexico's coast, destroying 37 of them under Operation Southern Spear. But it doesn't end there. The operation has already killed over 120 people involved with the cartels. But what's the next step? What's the U.S. preparing to do when they turn their attention to cartel compounds, their leadership, their operations on land? Well, I'll tell you this. Northcom's Special Operations Command has already prepared target packages. These are detailed plans, names, locations, compound targets, all set for strikes that could come at any moment. And those strikes will be precise, targeted, and decisive. Now, you might be wondering, what does this all mean for Mexico, for its people, for its government? The truth is, Mexico is walking a fine line. The Mexican government, led by President Claudia Sheinbaum, is cooperating with the U.S., but that cooperation has a price. And that price is the presence of foreign military forces on Mexican soil. The Senate has given the go-ahead for the SEALs to come, but there are cracks beneath the surface. Senators like Gerardo Fernandez Nona are worried about the increasing frequency of U.S. military incursions. They don't want their country to become a playground for foreign forces. But the reality? Mexico has few choices left, because the alternative is watching American forces enter Mexico uninvited. Let's pause for a second. If you were Mexico, would you rather cooperate and keep the U.S. forces under control, or risk them coming in with full force, no holds barred? It's a tough choice, and it's a choice that Mexico may have already lost. This is more than just a border dispute. This is a military campaign that is unfolding right now. The Pentagon, the US Navy, the SEALs, and even the directed energy lasers. These aren't just tactics. These are signals. Messages that the US is willing to do whatever it takes to end the cartel threat once and for all. The cartels are not just drug dealers anymore. They are enemy combatants. They've infiltrated the very fabric of American society, using drones, using tactics learned from the battlefield. And they're not backing down. They've already escalated, and so has the US. But here's the thing. What will be the cost of all of this? Is this the end game? Are we ready for what comes next? How will Mexico, the US, and the rest of the world handle the fallout of a war that is not just on the border, but within the very heart of the cartel-controlled regions? Stay tuned, because the answers to those questions might be just around the corner. And when the next wave of operations begins, we'll see just how far this conflict will go. What do you think about America's approach to the cartels? Do you think Mexico is prepared for what's coming, or is it too late to turn back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like the video, and be sure to subscribe to stay updated on everything happening in this ever-evolving conflict. Until next time, stay informed.